This summer, forget indoor tubing. There's a run on Des Moines starting July 10th. It's the Rouen Greater Des Moines Grand Prix. Accelerate, four. Full throttle racing action. Racing guest stars, just look at them. And dancing in the streets to 38 Special, Jefferson Starship, and the Bellamy Brothers. It's all in the Grand Prix in Des Moines, July 10th, 11th, and 12th. For just $15, get your speeding tickets today. Call 1-800-336-PRE and call now.
This is CNN.
Bill Clinton's desperate bid to define himself. Was his swipe at Sister Souljah brilliant, or has it backfired? Has Clinton further split the already fractured Democratic coalition? And with Bush floundering and Perot surging, just what kind of strategy should the likely Democratic nominee pursue? And welcome to Newsmaker Sunday in Washington. I'm Frank Sesno. We have those questions today for three influential Democrats. Arkansas Senator David Pryor, a member of the moderate Democratic Leadership Council, formerly headed by Clinton himself. William Gray, former House Majority Whip and now the president of the United Negro College Fund. And Representative Nancy Pelosi of California, co-chairman of the Democratic Platform Committee. And now we're going to start right away with Senator Pryor. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Frank.
We'll hear from the others as well, but I'm very curious as to what your thought is about this widening rift between Jesse Jackson and Bill Clinton, prompted by this Sister Souljah business.
Well, I don't think there was any plan before Bill Clinton went to the Rainbow Coalition a few days back. I don't think there was any plan to separate Bill Clinton from Jesse Jackson. I think that Bill Clinton did this out of conscience. I think that no matter who had said this, I think that he would have basically have said the same thing.
Well, plan or otherwise, does this help or hurt Bill Clinton?
Well, we don't know. I think ultimately it's going to help Bill Clinton because it's going to show and demonstrate to the American public, not just to Democrats, that he is not going to be, let's say, taken over by Reverend Jesse Jackson or any person or any group. Bill Clinton is his own person.
Bill Gray?
Well, I think that the jury's still out on what's going to happen and what's going to be the impact. But clearly, the Clinton strategy is to define himself as being different from all of the leaders in the Democratic Party. He went to the UAW and stood up for the free trade agreement with Mexico. I mean, going into a very hostile audience and taking that position. He goes before the Rainbow Coalition, where Sister Souljah had appeared just recently, and separates himself from her. And he's been doing this for the last week, and I just think it's a tactic designed to clearly define who he is. I think ultimately it will be beneficial to him, even though he will probably catch some static from Democratic leadership and from some portions of the Democratic Party.
Nancy Pelosi, you know what Jerry Brown said? Jerry Brown said he next expects to see Bill Clinton before a conference of bishops lecturing them about birth control. We might expect to see him before senior citizens telling them they're going to have to take a cut in their Social Security benefits. Is this how you define yourself in the Democratic Party these days?
Well, I think the point about what Governor Clinton did is that he is consistent. As Bill Gray mentioned, he doesn't mind going into the lion's den and saying what he thinks. How would this action have been judged if Bill Clinton had gone into a different camp and made the comments about Sister Souljah? So I think that the point is that he's not afraid to voice his opinion, even when it's unpopular to the particular audience that he is speaking to. No, I don't expect that he will be speaking to the bishops.
Well, I want to take a brief pause here for just a moment and take a look at a piece of videotape from Sister Souljah reacting to this brewing flap with Bill Clinton. Let's just take a look at what she has to say.
What I think Clinton did was awaken a sleeping giant, because I am very loved by African people in this country, and they feel personally attacked by what Clinton did because they believe that it was an integrity-less attack for an agenda-less candidate.
Bill Gray, do African Americans feel personally attacked by this Bill Clinton comment?
Well, I haven't done any polling. I've only heard of one poll that was done that showed that about 58% of the black community disagreed with the quote that was in the Washington Post. Now, there's some controversy as to whether the quote was accurate, whether it was taken out of context. But I think most African Americans do not want to stand on the side of an issue that says, let's have a week of killing white people. Because you can also reverse that and say, let's have a week of killing black people, and blacks are in the minority. So There's controversy as to whether she was quoted in context, but I think on the whole, black Americans do not support a concept of racial violence, week of killing white people. Whether or not this is going to boil down to a loss of support in the black community, I think is too early to define. I think what you really have is a more important controversy for Clinton politically between himself and Jesse Jackson, which is not a new one, by the way. It goes back to about 1985 and the formation of the DLC.
Frank, if I might ask Bill and Nancy a question, and maybe let me ask a question. What would have happened had Bill Clinton appeared before the Rainbow Coalition, Sister Souljah being on the program either right before or right after, I don't know the context of the appearance schedule, and had he not said something about her statement? That
nobody would have noticed, would they?
Well, I think had he not said something and he walked out of there and people said, wait a minute, do you condone what Sister Souljah said about killing white people? I think he had to say something about it.
Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Well, I think the senator hit a very good point, and that is that I think members of the media probably would have popped that question to him. I think the real problem here is, and the real problem for Clinton is, one, how do you come from third, where your candidacy is being ignored, to having people pay attention to you? And I think what you've got to do is you've got to make some bold statements, bold steps, and I think that's what he's trying to do. Now, whether this is a bold step that is positive or negative is yet to be seen.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's a positive or negative thing, Mr. Gray?
Well, I think that overall, the fact that he has taken 3 steps that are very strong in terms of defining himself and differentiating himself probably is going to be positive for him politically in the long run. In the short run, though, I think he has a serious problem that he's got to pay some attention with Jesse Jackson. But again, how he deals with that becomes key, because he can be perceived by other wings of the Democratic Party as being manipulated by some elements of our party. So he's got to be very careful on how he does that. But clearly what he's trying to do is say, hey, I'm my own person. Here's what I've been saying. I'm going to say it. I think probably what would have happened had he left the Rainbow Coalition was somebody from the media, Frank, would have said, by the way, do you agree with this statement or not?
Congresswoman Pelosi, has the importance of Jesse Jackson within the Democratic Party been overestimated or overstated, do you think?
Actually, I don't even think that's an issue in this presidential race.
Well, but it's an issue. It is an issue that comes up at the campaigns. It certainly came up at the last convention. The question of Michael Dukakis and Jesse Jackson was a very difficult one.
It was a very difficult one, but I think that I would say this. Jesse Jackson is an active member of the Democratic Party. He is a tremendous resource to the Democratic Party, and we don't want to undermine or to reduce the effectiveness of anyone in the party. Let 1,000 flowers blossom. Let everyone thrive and compete. And I think that's the larger issue that is here now. And it's not a question of the specifics only of what Governor Clinton said. One good thing that did come out of it was that it enlarged the debate. It drew many more people into the debate and into watching what's going on in this presidential race.
Can Jesse
I don't
Jackson
think
deliver
we can
the
be
black
afraid
vote?
of ideas. I don't think we can be afraid.
Can Jesse Jackson deliver the black vote?
I don't think the black vote is a monolith. I think there are some people who are very responsive to Jesse Jackson in the black community, but I think that the black community is like every other community. Some people respond to certain leaders in the party, and some have been involved in the process a long time or are new to it for reasons that are different than Jesse Jackson appeal to them. Oh. So I believe that we cannot treat the black community as if it is a monolith.
Well, no
I believe that we have to treat them with greater respect than that. And even, I think that Sister Souljah is a very articulate young woman who can speak for herself, and I think that this debate is not an unhealthy one.
No one suggests that the black vote is monolithic, Senator Pryor, but there is no doubt that Jesse Jackson speaks for a large part of the black vote. If Bill Clinton ends up in this rather difficult match with Jesse Jackson, is that going to cost him a large part of that black vote?
Well, Jesse Jackson can certainly at this point hurt the Democratic Party. There's no question about that. We saw all sort of attempts, and we won't go back into 84 and 88 campaigns, but Jesse Jackson was an extremely difficult individual to deal with. And I'm not saying that he was right, whether he was wrong. That is for the historians to judge, but I can say he's very difficult. Now, right now, is he going to be difficult going into the convention in New York in mid-July, the Democratic Convention? We have a big umbrella in our party. We want not only Reverend Jackson, we want every human being that we can to come under that umbrella, as Nancy has talked about. But one thing that Congresswoman Pelosi said earlier was that Bill Clinton is consistent. I've known Bill Clinton since he was 19. What he is doing here is what he has done all of his life. He has tried to put people together. He's tried to not separate people or to divide people. I've seen him do it with labor and management. I've seen him do it with truckers and
well, why is he having so much trouble getting his message out?
Because right now, every time he starts to get his message out, something comes up to sort of cloud that message. But I think in time, and we have 4.5 months, that is an eternity for Bill Clinton to get that message out. And I think his new tact of going, you talk about his attack to go on the offensive and attack this, that, and the other. I don't know that he's doing that. I think what he's doing is becoming very, very aggressive in reaching out to the voter to tell them who he really is. He did the MTV, he did Larry King Live the other night. I mean, he's doing all these things to show that he is a first-class human being.
Let's take a break here, but when we come back, some more on Bill Clinton's strategy and some more on his message.
To protect the lives of firefighters, DuPont developed a remarkable fire-resistant fiber for their clothing called Nomex. But perhaps even more remarkable is how it protects those who never even wear it. At DuPont, we make the things that make a difference.
Hi, it's Squad 4148, not seen. Have you solid or not seen? 91 clear. 814 clear. You two, he's the third left.
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
This was me with dull gray hair. I looked washed up. But color my gray? Not me. I found a whole new way to make my gray look great.
He discovered a new kind of shampoo called Great Looking Gray. Great Looking Gray not only cleans and conditions your hair, it gets rid of the dullness. Gets rid of the yellow, too. Ordinary shampoos can't do all that.
What a difference it makes.
Now, make your gray look great with Great Looking Gray shampoo.
The 92 conventions. In this historic election year, one network will bring you more news, more analysis, more live reporting. For convention coverage that goes beyond gavel to gavel, there's only one network to watch, CNN.
And welcome back to Newsmaker Sunday. Joining us, three leading Democrats: Senator David Pryor of Arkansas, former Congressman William Gray, and Representative Nancy Pelosi of California. Mr. Gray, to you, how should Bill Clinton handle Ross Perot?
Well, I think the thing that he's got to do is he's got to make himself be seen as the real agent of fundamental change and direction in this country.
How can he do that against
not only be the fundamental person who can do that, but the best person to do that. And of course, the battle with Ross Perot is Ross Perot has not been in the political system, so therefore he immediately has the credentials for fundamental change. Now the question is, can he implement it? And of course, I don't think Bill Clinton has picked up on a way to deal with that issue where he talks about who can implement the fundamental change. But clearly right now, the body politic in America wants significant change, and I think that's one of the growth areas that Ross Perot has, and Clinton's got to somehow take advantage of that. And the president's got the same problem, by the way. How does he make himself to be an agent for fundamental change?
Bill Clinton certainly has been tackling the administration of late, and most recently, and his most recent target was Vice President Dan Quayle. The Clinton picking up on some of Quayle's comments recently. We have a piece of video on that we'd like to show you. Let's take a look at that.
I guess like me, in the last few days, you've been both amused and angered by President Bush sending out old Dan Quayle to be the administration's pit bull. That's how he characterized himself. He says, I'm the pit bulldog of this campaign. I told some people here at home that that's got every fire hydrant in America scared to death.
Nancy Pelosi, is this how you get your message out? You go after Dan Quayle and you do every radio talk show and television talk show in the world?
Well, I think that what Bill Clinton was doing right there was trying to relate it directly to the public. Humor is a very powerful weapon in politics. But let me say, in response to your larger question about how does Bill Clinton get his message out, I think that in light of the Perot candidacy, I think, again, the Perot candidacy attracts attention to the presidential campaign in a larger way than might have been there before. Bill Clinton, frankly, is a victim of his own success. If there was still a battle going on in the Democratic Party, the public would be enjoying that fight. But that doesn't exist now. Perot is the personification of none of the above.
Congresswoman, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to ask you, though, have you endorsed Bill Clinton formally?
Well, as a co-chair of the Platform Committee, I want to get through the platform process before endorsing the obvious nominee of our party.
So the answer is no.
Because I have to deal with the representatives of the other presidential campaigns. But I believe that he will do a very effective job of presenting his vision to the country, his immense knowledge of the subject of government and the problems confronting our country, and a plan of action on how to deal with them. And with that, he will attract the support that is necessary for a great Democratic victory in November.
Senator Pryor?
Well, I think that Bill Clinton, a while ago, when he was taking on Dan Quayle a little bit, I think that is simply a characteristic of Bill Clinton that I think we're going to see more and more. He was having fun. Bill Clinton loves a campaign. He loves the hard rigors of a political campaign.
Well, he's in the hard rigors of the campaign.
He's in the hard rigors.
And the character question is back, isn't it? Jesse Jackson has used this Flapless Sister Soldier to re-raise the question of the character.
This is not taking coming from Reverend Jackson on his character accusation on Bill Clinton. It's just not taking.
But surely you don't think the character question is gone for the rest of the campaign? You don't think the Bush and Perot people are going to let that lie, do you?
I don't know. I think that Bush and Perot are tearing each other's heads off right now, respectively, and I think that Bill Clinton is sitting there in a very, very strong position. He's waiting. His move is going to be made at the appropriate time, and if I were Bill Clinton, I would say I'm going to let Ross Perot and President Bush go at it for a little while to see what happens.
You raise an interesting point, and I'd like to ask all three of you now something. There's a report in the Washington Post today that Ross Perot investigated in some detail in the mid to late 80s George Bush and his political dealings. What do you think about someone like Ross Perot, to all of you now, investigating the vice president and then the president perhaps, and what implications does this have for Perot's candidacy in this campaign?
I just hope he doesn't investigate me, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are wondering if he's investigated them, if he disagrees with them. I don't know anything about that. I did read it in the Post this morning, and I have heard of rumors of other investigations that he has had made against other individuals, but I don't know if they're substantiated or not.
Congresswoman Pelosi?
Well, President Bush is a public figure. I'm in California. I haven't seen the Washington Post this morning, so I don't know the particulars of that article. But I'm more concerned, frankly, about Ross Perot's investigation of private individuals, competitors of his or people in his employ. You may have seen the recent article in the Wall Street Journal, which went into great detail about how he had, it appeared, violated the rights of privacy of people with whom he was in competition. I think that would be important to the American people. But I think you're answering your own question about why it's difficult for Bill Clinton to get his message out because of this fascination for Ross Perot. I think Ross Perot deserves all the attention that he gets for his own candidacy. I think Bill Clinton's message and his agenda should get its own attention to allow him to run his own race instead of forever casting it in the light of Jesse Jackson or in the light of Ross Perot. So I think more will be heard about how Ross Perot regards the constitutional rights of the American people But that should pertain to a story about Ross Perot, not Bill Clinton.
Mr. Gray, I'm curious as to your thoughts on Ross Perot and who he hurts the most. I mean, you see him going after George Bush like this, but he's also in states such as New York, for example, cutting very deeply into Bill Clinton's base, it would seem.
I think he's going to hurt the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee, which is the president, at this point. However, I think, even though I have not read the Washington Post and I'm not familiar with the story, the fact is that Ross Perot will become scrutinized by the media, and we'll learn a lot more about him. And as that happens, we will begin to see a leveling off process, and then we'll have to see which way the voters are going to go.
Do you think this is ultimately going to be a two-person race, Mr. Gray, or a three-person race, right down to the wire, very quickly?
I think it could be a three-person race. It could be a two-person race. I'd probably bet my money right now on a three-person race, but come September, it could end up being a two-person race.
Can I comment on that?
No, I'm afraid we're out of time, Senator. I'd love to let you jump in, but Bill Gray, I'm going to thank you first for helping us and being with us today. Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco, thanks so much for joining us. And Senator Pryor,
thank you.
Appreciate your time and your thoughts. And we'll be back with your turn on Newsmaker Sunday right after this.
It just opens up a whole world of opportunities.
It will change everything, their outlook entirely on the market.
It is a state-of-the-art way to make money today.
It's helped me make a lot of money.
Introducing Investors Business Daily. It's the new voice in journalism, edited for America's business and investment community.
I've opened up Investors Business Daily, looked at a stock in there that had all the characteristics that I wanted, and bought the stock and made money.
Call this number today. Get 10 issues of Investors Business Daily, plus the audio cassette How to Make Money in Stocks, absolutely free.
Oh, well, for free. I mean, how could you refuse?
It's a no-lose proposition.
It's a heck of a tape.
Call now. The cassette and the issues, a $25 value, are yours free. A no-obligation sample of Investors Business Daily.
If the non-subscriber could get 10 free issues and Mr. O'Neill's tape free, it is worth doing.
How can you refuse something that's going to educate you, hopefully make you money, and you're going to give it to somebody?
It's an invaluable asset.
You'll get business articles, graphs, and tables you won't find in the Wall Street Journal.
I consider the Investors Daily like a 3D newspaper about investments. The information pops out at you. It's very useful information. The Wall Street Journal is flat. The paper provides information that obviously you can't get anywhere else.
It's very educational, very informative.
It is easy to read.
It gives me a broad overview of what's going on with corporate America.
It gives you a clearer direction of where the market is heading.
If you're in the world of business, you owe it to yourself to try this no-obligation, no-risk, no-strings offer, free.
I think it's a good offer.
I'd recommend it to anyone who is interested in keeping track of their investments, monitoring their investments, and looking for new growth opportunities.
I take it. I take it immediately.
I recommend it to anybody who has an interest in the stock market.
Call now. Get 10 free issues and the tape, a $25 value, free.
It's made me much more interested in the market. It's made me much more astute.
It's the only paper that has ever made me money. Serious money.
Without the Investors Daily, people are going to have a very difficult time being successful.
And now it's your turn on Newsmaker Sunday when we put your questions and comments to our guests. 2 weeks ago, the big news was the Earth Summit in Rio, and our guests were Michael DeLand, chairman of the President's Council on Environmental Quality, and Senator Al Gore, who headed up the Senate delegation to the summit. Margaret Wilson of Keysville, Virginia, had this question for Mr. DeLand. Is the timber cut down from our forests staying in the USA or shipped out to foreign countries? Is it worth the few votes you might get to destroy our natural resources?
It's not a question of votes, it's a question of long-term management of our forests. And the way to manage them is on an ecosystem-wide basis, eliminate clear-cutting as a standard practice, and by so doing, we can avoid the contentious jobs versus environment debate that we're now faced with.
Senator and Sam Conley of Gordonville, Texas, had a tough question for Senator Gore concerning jobs and environment in his home state. I read recently that a new wood chipping plant is being built in the Tennessee Valley that will require the clear cutting of the entire valley over a 20-year period to feed the chipping plant. What have you done to attempt to stop this tragedy in your home state?
Mr. Conley, I agree with you that it would be a tragedy to open up the Tennessee Valley to this new technology of chip mills. I've spoken out aggressively against the location of chip mills on the Tennessee River. I've urged the Tennessee Valley Authority to deny permits that are necessary for the chip mills to be located on the river banks. I will continue to do everything I can to prevent the introduction of this destructive practice into the Tennessee Valley.
If you have a question for today's guests or a comment on Governor Bill Clinton's campaign strategies, please write to us at Your Turn, CNN Newsmaker Sunday, 820 First Street Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20002. The address again, 820 First Street Northeast, Washington, D.C. 20002. And that's all for Newsmaker Sunday. For all of us at the program, have a good what's left of the weekend. I'm Frank Sesno.
For a transcript of Newsmaker Sunday with Frank Sesno, send $4 to Newsmaker Sunday Transcripts, Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Or call 1-303-831-9000.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hulled oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things for better living.
Dear Wendy, summer vacation, week 2. I'm having a great time taking a lot of photos. I went to Dolphin World with some new friends. Afterwards, everyone was hungry. Luckily, there was a Wendy's nearby. We had junior bacon cheeseburgers, biggie fries, Frosties, and biggie drinks. I treated, because everything on the super value menu is just 99 cents each. And Miss Smarty, I finally broke 100. Love, Dad.
Hey, mister, that's my bowl.
Oh, sorry.
Wendy's Super Value Menu, the best place to spend your summer.
On CNN tomorrow, Sister Soldier, is she the new voice of Black America on Cryer and Company? Then on NewsHour, how State Department insiders are selling legal passports to drug dealers. All tomorrow on CNN.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Arsenault at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Here's a look at what's happening. An angry and frustrated Ross Perot reportedly went looking for dirt on George Bush. Today's Washington Post reports Perot initiated a series of investigations in the 1980s when Mr. Bush was vice president. The story says Perot angrily concluded Mr. Bush was not aggressively assisting his plan to find evidence of missing U.S. servicemen in Vietnam. The paper says Perot's investigators looked into a range of Mr. Bush's activities, from his investments to his record as CIA director. The report says Perot found no evidence of wrongdoing. The White House says President Bush was unaware of the investigations. Spokesman Marlon Fitzwater says, and I quote, "This is a shocking and frightening pattern of investigations and intimidations." African National Congress leader Nelson Mandela has called off direct talks with South Africa's government. He accuses the government of complicity in a black township massacre last week. During a rally today, Mandela said the ANC could not negotiate with a regime that is, and I quote, "murdering our people." Yesterday, President F.W. de Klerk tried to visit the shanty town where 39 people were killed Wednesday, but residents would not permit him to get out of his car. Well, next on CNN Weekend, the games of '92. That's right after this.
Are you one of those people who had a bad experience last time you went car shopping? Well, it does happen, but never at the Auto Plaza in Winterset. Why? Because of our exclusive discount pricing system. We make it easy for you to buy cars, trucks, or vans. Discount pricing means you'll find the lowest price available anywhere on every GM and Chrysler Plymouth on our lot. There's just one price on every car, the lowest. So no hassles, no embarrassment, no nothing but low prices every day. So drive a little and save a lot at the Auto Plaza in Winterset. Nobody in Des Moines can touch our prices.
This summer, forget indoor tubing. There's a run on Des Moines starting July 10th. It's the Rouen Greater Des Moines Grand Prix. Accelerate, 4 full throttle racing action. Racing guest stars, just look at them. And dancing in the streets to 38 Special, Jefferson Starship, and the Bellamy Brothers. It's all in the Grand Prix in Des Moines July 10th, 11th, and 12th. For just $15, get your speeding tickets today. Call 1-800-336-PRE and call now.